Jeanne Jugan, also known as Sister Mary of the Cross L.S.P, was a French woman who became known for the dedication of her life to the neediest of the elderly poor. Her service resulted in the establishment of the Little Sisters of the Poor, who care for the elderly who have no other resources throughout the world. She has been declared a saint by the Catholic Church. Early life. Jugan was born October 25, 1792, in the port city of Cancale in Brittany, the sixth of the 8 children of Joseph and Marie Jugan. She grew up during the political and religious upheavals of the French Revolution. 4 years after she was born, her father, a fisherman, was lost at sea. Her mother struggled to provide for the young Jeanne and her siblings, while also providing them secretly with religious instruction amid the anti-Catholic persecutions of the day. Jugan worked as a shepherdess while still very young, and learned to knit and spin wool. She could barely read and write. When she was 16, she took a job as the kitchen maid of the Viscountess de la Choët. The Viscountess, a devout Catholic, had Jugan accompany her when she visited the sick and the poor. At age 18, and again 6 years later, she declined marriage proposals from the same man. She told her mother that God had other plans, and was calling her to a work which is not yet founded. Quote, at age 25, the young woman became an associate of the Congregation of Jesus and Mary founded by St. John Eudes. Jugan also worked as a nurse in the town hospital of St. Servan. She worked hard at this physically demanding job, but after 6 years, she left the hospital due to her own health issues. She then worked for 12 years as the servant of a fellow member of the Eudist Third Order, until the woman's death in 1835. In the course of Jugan's duties, the two women recognized a similar Catholic spirituality and began to teach catechism to the children of the town and to care for the poor and other unfortunates. In 1837, Jugan and a 72-year-old woman rented part of a small cottage and were joined by Virginie Tredaniel, a 17-year-old orphan. These 3 women then formed a Catholic community of prayer, devoted to teaching the catechism and assisting the poor. Foundress. In the winter of 1839, Jugan encountered Aunt Chauvin, an elderly woman who was blind, partially paralyzed, and had no one to care for her. Jugan carried her home to her apartment and took her in from that day forward, letting the woman have her bed while she slept in the attic. She soon took in 2 more old women in need of help, and by 1841 she had rented a room to provide housing for a dozen elderly people. The following year, she acquired an unused convent building that could house 40 of them. For this act of charity, with the approval of her colleagues, Jeanne then focused her attention upon the mission of assisting abandoned elderly women, and from this beginning arose a religious congregation called the Little Sisters of the Poor. Jugan wrote a simple rule of life for this new community of women, and they went door to door daily requesting food, clothing and money for the women in their care. This became Jugan's life work, and she performed this mission for the next 4 decades. During the 1840s, many other young women joined Jugan in her mission of service to the elderly poor. By begging in the streets, the foundress was able to establish 4 more homes for the beneficiaries by the end of the decade. In 1847, based on the request of Leo Dupont, she established a house in that city. She was much sought after whenever problems arose and worked with religious and civil authorities to seek help for the poor. By 1850, over 100 women had joined the congregation. Jugan, however, was forced out of her leadership role by the Abbé Auguste Lepela, the priest who had been appointed superior general of the congregation by the local bishop. In an apparent effort to suppress her true role as foundress, he assigned her to to nothing but begging on the street until she was sent into retirement on a life of obscurity for 27 years. Her eyesight was impaired in her final years. Expansion. After communities of Little Sisters had begun to spread throughout France, the work spread to England in 1851. From 1866 to 1871, 5 communities of Little Sisters were founded across the United States. By 1879, the community Jeanne founded had 2,400 Little Sisters and had spread across Europe and to North America. That year, Pope Leo XIII approved the constitutions for the Little Sisters of the Poor. At the time of her death on August 29 of that same year, many of the Little Sisters did not know that she was the one to have founded the congregation. L.S.P, however, was investigated and dismissed in 1890, and Jugan came to be acknowledged as the foundress. In September 1885, the congregation arrived in South America and made a first foundation in Valparaiso, Chile, from which it expanded later on. Veneration. Jugan died in 1879 at the age of 86, and was buried in the graveyard of the General Mother House at St. Pern. She was beatified in Rome by Pope John Paul II on October 3, 1982, and canonized on October 11, 2009, by Pope Benedict XVI, who said, in the Beatitudes, Jeanne Jugan found the source of the spirit of hospitality and fraternal love, founded on unlimited trust in Providence, which illuminated her whole life. Today, pilgrims can visit the house where she was born, the House of the Cross at St. Servan, and the Mother House where she lived her last 23 years at La Tour St. Joseph in St. Pern. Legacy. The Sisters of the Queen of Peace residence in Queens Village, New York established the Jeanne Jugan Award, which is presented to the staff member who best exemplifies the spirit of St. Jeanne Jugan.